Blessed morning. It's a very good morning this day. Thank you, Africa Youth Leadership and Gabriel, the team leader for Kenya, for having me here. About myself, my names are Mrs. Stella Kebongo. I am a God-fearing, dynamic, results-oriented team player and leader who has experience that spans about 33 years of my life, both in the corporate world, which ran about 27 years, and out here in the economic world that is really tough to deal, running my own personal company business, which is spanning like going to around 4 years now. I have an adept of knowledge in creating great teams, helping them achieve whatever expectations that were set for them in the corporate world. Particularly, I was in the financial services sector, where I grew from a clerical role in the bank, spanning 28 years, to a vice president role. In all this, there were great teams working across networks, virtually and physically, ensuring that goals were always achieved, and we always achieved the desired outcomes, no matter what it took, because we had to deal whatever it is that we faced. Success to me has always been, and I think will remain, leaving a place or people better than I found them. And this has been basically in, whether at home, I would say, making sure my kids are the best I have and they're able to get the best out of themselves. The teams that I've worked with in the banking network, the branch networks, where I achieve and my teams also achieve, has always been what has been success for me. And knowing and believing that God always carried us through in everything that we touched and felt like we ought to achieve. It always happened whenever we aimed at it, planned about it, and executed. But with God, always, as we are told, everything is possible. So when we put at it and went for it, it always happened. And doing positive things all the time, reminding ourselves whatever it is that we have to achieve and going for it, whether at home, in the financial world, or in my own company, where I have to make sure that I check on what my employees do day in, day out. My favorite failure, I would say, is the fear of failure itself. And I have had situations really where I thought I am not even a person who really wants to fail, or I wouldn't want to be viewed as a person who did not achieve something that I set out to do. But in certain instances, it will happen. And for me, particularly during the COVID period, when it came to my company business, where we had to shut down, it was a real lesson. Failure is there. We will run with it every day of our lives. It's just how we get up and run once it has happened is what is very critical in our lives. So yes, failure is there. I don't think many people, even myself, have any favorite failures, but the fear of failure itself makes you really work at it when it happens. The persistence, I think, the not leaving the eyes off the ball and the goal that I'm meant to achieve has always been what is critical for me. So yes, it will happen. The failure will be there. But what is the desired result? What's the outcome that I need to have? Make money, for example, then I will go back to whatever step where I left and pick it up and go on with it. Social pressure. Now, social pressure for me, maybe when I was a little young, because I have adopted the mantra of a day at a time with Jesus. I don't ask God to give me the entire bakery. I ask for my daily bread, just like Jesus taught us. Now, my mantra is, I live the day as it brings itself. And with positivity, nothing will be a challenge. So social maybe, might not be, really that's not me, because I am Stella, not social pressure. I'm not made up of what is surrounding me. Sometimes the environment, of course, will affect my business. It will affect the way I feel, the people with me. You know, you'll have all sorts of things, including moods. But then the way I choose to pick it up and be positive and move is what matters in my life. And once I pick Jesus, we are through it all. And whenever we have even those that are affected by that social pressure, we try to pull them along with us to remember the life is about themselves and about who I am, the values I uphold as an individual. So I will step out there feeling confident more than ever, just because of the way I have taught myself to continuously do the right thing. It always revolves around failure. My biggest fear is failure, not to be able to achieve what I set out to do, for my kids not to be able to reach, maybe to finish their school education, move on to go to the university, and many other aspects of life that will be in a mother, an entrepreneur, a business person, a philanthropist person as myself. Being not able to achieve what I set out to do is really what gives me sleepless nights. But like I said, when we had the experience during COVID, it really taught me one thing, patience. And life will have to happen the way God plans it to happen. So my being positive and being myself, always having a plan B in whatever happens. Like during this time we had to shut our business, we still had to make sure we had food on the table. Even for the workers we had, it was not their intention not to come to work every day as we had done every other time. So having a plan B of how you make sure that is cushioned in the event of a problem, and that is very critical. Even in our own homes, how you do it. If your child doesn't achieve what they wanted to achieve, then how do you go about it? You just sit down, have a conversation, have a plan, and everything else will fall into place as long as you're patient. And then you really think through whatever strategies you're putting in place, everything will come up as it's supposed to be, and it will fall into place. But patience is what failure has taught me, to always take my time and things will flow in Jesus' name. My biggest motivation is things happening right. Things going the way they ought to, things flowing, having that target being achieved, having the desired outcomes for whatever it is that I plan to do in my life, whether at home, with my mentees, because I do also a lot of talking to young people. When I see them excel, that is my motivation. Like I said earlier, leaving a place better than I found it, and leaving a person better than I found them when we first got in touch. Not forgetting having my legacy at the end of it. When I look back, then I see that I have achieved in the legacy, that the name that I've left behind, in aligned to the values that I taught the person or the place or the people that I dealt with. My mentees and negative self-talk and comparisons, and that is very live, and I can say like most of the population of my mentorship actually, besides my counseling, which I do for marriages pro bono, I deal a lot with university students, where I've had cases of even girls getting pregnant in college and they really don't know what to do because they just came into campus, decided to be the Miss University that they were when they landed in the university, got all hit and runs of boys coming to speak to them. What I do, and I've asked this always, even when I sit with the university students, I ask them, how many of them end up getting married the way they were in love in first year? What happens when in 4th year? That is the mantra that I use to make them try to have a realization of what exactly should be happening in their lives. And 90% of the time I get the answer that 1% end up getting married to each other. Now, when I bring this question to my mentee, I ask them, now, if this person is not even likely to be your husband, then what is the critical thing that you ought to do in your life as a university student? And there is no magic about it. It's about following the 10 commandments. When you do what the Lord tells you to do, then you're bound to finish with the Holy Spirit guidance, and you go through your education, and then you will not even have a problem of who will say anything about you, who will laugh at you, who will tell you you're not beautiful, that's why you're not having an affair with me as a boyfriend, who will compare themselves to you and tell you I come from a very good family, you are a poor person. They will not focus on that, because the Lord gave us the 10 commandments so that they guide us in our lives. The rich, the students, the kids, the poor, the politicians, everyone is supposed to just be guided by that one simple 10 commandments, which is yet a challenge for many of us to follow to the letter. And if children and even grown-ups, even men and women, follow that and really take time to understand what it means, you just end up loving your neighbor and the Lord your God, and life will be smooth. I'm most grateful for my glass ball. In the world, we have many balls that we juggle, and we are told all the rest of the balls are rubber. They will hit the ground and bounce back to me. Now, family is my glass ball. It falls down, it shatters. These people have kept me on my toes, and I love them. So lovingly supported me through my journey in life, because it's not about myself. It's about seeing them excel and do well when they're out there. Some of them are the ones who have even made me aware in more detail about Africa youth leadership, like my son particularly. So the glass ball has been my family. That is what I'm extremely grateful for to God, for bringing them into my life, for walking the journey which is spanning like 32 years now in my marriage, with grown-ups, 5 big people, 4 of them already done campus and 1 in high school. That is what I can say. That's what I've lived for, basically, nothing else. Yeah, and my supportive husband. Fun. I love traveling. I love traveling a lot, so that helps me a lot, because I've moved around the country a lot from when I was working in the corporate world, and even now when I am now doing my own business, I have offices spanning across various towns in the country, almost actually moving into the East African network. Traveling, I love. And I'm able to meet people, cultures, adopt new cultures, see what happens in other economies, to be able to adopt, whether for myself or for the people I meet and network with. So traveling a lot. And then music and dancing, I also love a lot. Cooking, nurturing, helping anyone with a problem, that's what I spend most of my time doing, particularly when you hear me telling you about pro bono counseling. Marriages that have challenges, I would rather see the marriage work. I don't want to be paid for giving that service, because God gave me the knowledge and the ability and the skill to be able to guide this person. Even the youngsters, I would say it right here in the university, if you're pregnant, please reach out to me. We will know what to do. Even if your parents come and shout on your head about the situation you're in, let's just have a conversation and we will know how to handle it. Because it's just helping in that one situation of a year or 2. The girl could be on the 3rd year and they only need support with that baby for just a year. They'll get a job once they are done and move on. So dealing with people, helping out, I can call it a hobby. Yeah, sometimes it takes a lot of my time, but the blessings that I get after that are uncountable. Books, reading, I would say, like, even for most of us, unless you're in school, social media has taken over. A lot of updates. We don't need to go far to get the information we need. But a book that touched me just from when I was working in the corporate world is The 7 Habits of Effective People by Steve Covey. By Steve Covey. And this book, what I love in the habits, one habit of telling me to sharpen my saw. Never go to a shamba without, even in the Bible you're told you can't go to the shamba without a panga. Now that book has applied all around. In every person I have met, it has been critical for them to read because it applies whether you're a student, whether you're an employee, whether you're a mentee, whether you're a mother, because sharpening the saw is in all hemispheres of life. So that book, I recommend it for every person who wants to understand themselves and be able to be guided on what they need to do. And indeed, that really helped me because I think I was in my middle management level when I read it at first, and that propelled me to the vice president grade, which was very, very, very good for me. And I had a boss who kept talking about it. So even when I teach the Africa Youth Leadership teams about it, it just flows. The other book that I found being very good is Being the Best Version of Myself by Charlotte Moore. And why I love this one is about emotional intelligence. There are many things that are never spoken about in this life, but they are really very, very useful in our lives. They come to teach us the little things that we never really take time to think about or wonder about when situations occur to us. It has been also a very worthy read for me. But basically, I do a lot of Harvard Business Review journals, and that just the tips and pieces of the things that are happening in my life once in a while is what I prefer. But I'm not a bookworm. No, I would rather think it out or even see it on Google or have whatever is going on social media. I pick one or two, so I'm that kind of a person. But Steve Covey, 7 Habits, any person. Emotional intelligence, Being the Best Version of Yourself by Charlotte Moore, very critical. Never quit. Life is not for quitters. Boys, girls, men, women, and the entire universe. Never quit. And if you hold on to God, everything will happen as God's will is required for your life, not the way you want as an individual. So avoid being impatient, sit right back, and the Lord will take you through. Thank you very much.